Now, two common mistakes to look out for when posing your characters are twinning and tangents. Even the default T-pose that most characters come in is a very unnatural looking pose. We very rarely see people posed out like this. A twinned pose is when the limbs of the character are too symmetrical to one another. In this example, you can see Kayla holding up her arms in the air, but notice that the angle at which the arms go up is very much exactly the same. We've exaggerated this effect as well by actually making the face as well more symmetrical, and she's standing up in a very Y-like position. Now, it's important that when we've got these very straight symmetrical poses, they feel less natural. We will want to add curves into our pose and line of action, and also we want to make sure that the limbs can be at slightly different positions to one another. Twinning can appear in any pose, and to fix it we have to remember that our characters are inside a 3D space. We can move the limbs into a whole variety of directions and create a more appealing pose. Now, these changes can be subtle. We can still keep her with her arms above her head, but what we want to do is work into the pose to have a certain level of asymmetry, and this will make it look more natural and more appealing. We have encountered problems with tangents before when we were looking at the character's silhouette. Tangents appear when the character's silhouette is not clear and the limbs intersect the outline of the silhouette. In this case, we can see that Kayla's rear hand looks like it's growing out from behind her ear. It's very difficult to tell where the ear and the forearm begin. We will have to move the arm out a little bit and adjust the shoulder just to make sure that it's very clear that the arm is separate from the actual head. Our goal still remains to design the clearest silhouette possible and to allow a quick and accurate reading of the pose. Remember that poses in animation are more staged than live action or in film, so we have to make sure that we reduce overlapping shapes with the silhouette. Arms and fingers are normally the main offenders of these, but remember to look out for anything that might be intersecting the silhouette of the character and see if there's a way of clearing it up. Always aim to simplify your designs down as much as possible. Now I'm going to continue designing Kayla's victory pose, but it's important to realize that tangents and twinnings seem like very obvious things, but they do creep up in your work constantly. There's almost a subconscious nature that makes them creep into your work without you noticing. The best way to make sure that these mistakes don't happen is actually to get some good, honest feedback. This is a real important part of the animation process, and you should get used to showing your friends or fellow animators your work while it still isn't finished, so that they can point out those mistakes that you might not be able to see because you've been working too long on a series of poses, but they'll jump out straight away to somebody who's seeing it fresh for the first time. You can also take advantage of posting your poses in the project section of the Skillshare page, and you'll be able to get feedback from myself about your poses as well, and I might actually post some further material with some draw-overs and some videos to show people the main mistakes of what they're making when they're doing their class project. So we've finished posing the victory pose, and probably it's as exaggerated as can be. It's also very asymmetrical, but it shows a very clear, distinct personality to Kayla, and it's much more interesting to look at than the default standard pose that we started off at the beginning of the video.